Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of building my Mount Damavand Diorama. In the previous part, I showed you how I carved the mountain model from a piece of walnut wood. And now, let's continue where we left off. But first, let me tell you a little about Mount Damavand itself. Standing at 5,671 meters, or 18,605 feet, it's the highest peak in Iran. It's a solitary volcanic mountain, and its last known eruption was around 10,000 years ago. To most people, a mountain is simply a part of nature. Rock, snow, and earth rising into the sky. For the people who have lived beneath its shadow for thousands of years, Mount Damavand has always been something far more than a mountain. For centuries, people in this land have believed that a secret lies deep within this mountain. A secret that has survived through the ages, carried from ancient myths all the way to the present day. They say that humanity's greatest enemy is still chained somewhere deep inside this mountain. Ancient texts say that Zahhak ruled for 1,000 years. But he was deceived by the devil. And just like Zahhak, I made a mistake here too. I decided to make twice as much resin as usual to speed things up. And that almost ruined the whole project. I don't know if it was the devil who tricked me this time, or just my own impatience. You see, epoxy resin generates a lot of heat as it cures, and when you mix a large amount at once, that heat can build up and damage the piece. The solution is to use a pressure pot, which of course I don't have. Anyway, back to the story of Zahhak. After allowing the devil to kiss his shoulders, 2 serpents grew from the marks of those kisses. And to keep the serpents satisfied, the brains of 2 young men were fed to them every single day. They say a hero eventually came and defeated Zahhak, then chained him inside a cave deep within Mount Damavand. He is said to still be there, and whenever the mountain rumbles, people say it is the sound of Zahhak crying out from his prison. They also say that one day he will finally break free, and in the final days of the world, he will return once again, bringing destruction with him. I don't know whether this legend is true or not, but I do know that even today there are leaders who use lies and deception to destroy the minds of people. I guess old habits die hard. What I'm building today, however, isn't about Zahhak. If you'd like, let me know, and maybe I'll make my own version of him someday. But today, I want to build something that has to do with us, ordinary people. So, stay with me. There is an old phrase that says, as above, so below. I've always found that idea fascinating. I like to think that it can also be interpreted as a connection between our inner world and the world around us. I've often wondered if the world around us is somehow a reflection of what's happening inside us. Maybe our inner world doesn't just affect how we see things. Maybe it also affects the kind of world we experience, the people we meet, the situations we find ourselves in, the way things seem to unfold around us. Sometimes it feels as if the outside world is quietly reflecting something that is happening deep inside me. And that's what makes me wonder, am I simply experiencing the world as it is? Or am I, in some way, experiencing a reflection of what's already happening within me? Maybe the world outside is shaping my inner world. Or maybe my inner world is somehow shaping the world I experience outside. Perhaps it's not one or the other. Perhaps they are constantly influencing each other. And if that's true, where does it begin? Inside us? Or outside us? I honestly don't know. But this question has been on my mind for a while. And I decided to make this piece around that idea. But before we go any further, let me tell you a little about where this phrase came from. The phrase, as above, so below, is usually associated with a mysterious ancient text known as the Emerald Tablet. It was traditionally attributed to a legendary figure called Hermes Trismegistus, a mysterious character associated with both the Greek god Hermes and the ancient Egyptian god Thoth. But here's where the story gets interesting. The true origins of the Emerald Tablet are still uncertain. The oldest known version appears in an Arabic text dating back to around the 8th or 9th century. The text is attributed to a mysterious figure called Balinas, who was associated with the ancient philosopher Apollonius of Tyana. According to the story, Balinas discovers a hidden chamber beneath a statue of Hermes. Inside, he finds an old man holding an emerald tablet containing a mysterious message. The tablet was later translated into Latin in the 12th century and eventually found its way into medieval Europe. Alchemists became fascinated by it. They believed its cryptic words contained secrets about nature, transformation, and the hidden relationships between different parts of the world. And one of the most famous lines from the Latin translation reads, "That which is above is like that which is below, and that which is below is like that which is above." Over time, the shorter form became the one most widely known today, as above, so below. So, you might be wondering, what does any of this have to do with Mount Damavand? If the world around us can somehow reflect what's happening inside us, then maybe this idea doesn't only apply to individuals. Maybe it can apply to a whole society. Maybe Zahhak isn't just a monster that appeared out of nowhere. Maybe, in some strange way, he represents something that a society can allow to rise. And perhaps the Zahhaks of the modern world aren't always just accidents either. Maybe, at least sometimes, they're also connected to the choices, beliefs, fears, and feelings of the people who live under them. I'm not saying that we simply choose our leaders and then deserve whatever happens. That's not what I mean at all. I'm thinking about something a little different. What if we, ordinary people, have far more power than we realize? We often look at the world and see powerful people at the top. Governments, leaders, institutions. And it can make us feel like we're just watching from the bottom. But what if the people at the top are in some way also a reflection of the people below them? Not because we are guilty of everything they do. Not because every person agrees with them. And certainly not because people always have a real choice. But maybe because power doesn't exist in a vacuum. It needs people. It needs attention. It needs acceptance. It needs participation. And sometimes it even needs silence. Maybe that's what makes this idea so uncomfortable. And so interesting. Because if the world outside us can reflect something of what's happening inside us, then perhaps we aren't as powerless as we sometimes believe. And I'm not saying I have the answer here. Honestly, I don't. In the old story, Zahhak is defeated by a hero, but the hero doesn't kill him. A divine voice tells him that Zahhak must remain alive. because killing him would release countless dangerous creatures into the world. So instead, Zahhak is taken to Mount Damavand and chained deep inside the mountain. And according to the legend, that's where he remains until the end of the world. One day, he will break free. And when that happens, he will bring destruction back into the world. And then, apparently, another hero will have to come and save everyone again. Well, okay, thanks. Great plan. I mean, I don't know about you, but if there's a choice between spending eternity waiting for the next hero, or maybe trying to make a better choice before another Zahhak rises, I'd at least like to consider the second option, and I don't pretend to understand the plans of the divine. Maybe there's a reason the story had to happen this way. Maybe someone up there knows exactly what they're doing. They probably have a much better view of the whole situation than I do. But it does make me wonder, do we really have to wait for a hero every time? What if the more important question isn't who will come to defeat the next Zahhak, but why another Zahhak was allowed to rise in the first place? Maybe Zahhak isn't only the monster we need someone else to defeat. Maybe he can also be a reflection of something that exists within the society around him. And if that's true, then maybe the appearance of a Zahhak isn't entirely a random event. Maybe it's connected, at least in some small way, to the choices that we, ordinary people, make. Not the choice of one person, not the choice of everyone, but the combined choices of millions of people. What they accept, what they ignore, what they fear, what they believe, and sometimes what they simply get used to. Maybe we should ask ourselves a very uncomfortable question. If we don't like what keeps appearing in the world around us, what, if anything, can we change within ourselves? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But if Zahhak can be chosen, perhaps something better can be chosen too.